Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to the Rochi Talks, your very own career podcast. Today I have a very special guest and I'm super excited for this episode. Kimberley Duarte joining us. She works in the commercialization and supply chain strategy space. I first met her at the ASCM Change conference early in October this year in Ohio. Was super impressed by her work. She's done a lot of great work, not only in supply chain, but also across energy, material, sustainability, all of that. We'll dive into it. And I think, and not just that, not just professionally, personally also, she's a power lifter. She's done multiple certifications, has had a great journey across multiple disciplines. So would love to dive into that too. Thank Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to pass on the mic to you and just have you introduce yourself.
Sure. No, thank you so much for having me, Archie. This is a really great experience, and I love that you highlight that I'm a power lifter. I don't bring it up very often.
Mhm.
When it comes in conversation, I light up talking about it, but it's such a strange dichotomy of who I am. So I appreciate you bringing it up because you're right. It is a part of who I am and a part of my journey. So I appreciate that. But
Yeah.
I'm Kimberly. I am a well-rounded person, I guess I'll say. I've delved in a couple of different careers. I highlight the fact that I didn't finish high school. I
Mhm.
trained in trade school. I went to school for aromatherapy, esthetician, and massage therapy. And I worked in that space and I built a business for a short period of time there. And then I went back to school for engineering and got a bachelor's in chemical engineering and a master's in new energy engineering, where I then joined industry as an electrochemical engineer in electrolyzers, fuel cells, energy systems.
Mhm.
And from there, took a winding road, I guess, through engineering, program management, supply chain management, strategy, and commercialization, just absorbing as much as possible and kind of jumping in wherever something became interesting to me. So my path was very organic in that way, and now I'm very much in love with the concept of circular supply chains, and I work with the Circular Supply Chain Network in outreach and education for how supply chain professionals can further their own supply chains to be more circular. And circular tech is also a big thing that I'm interested in these days.
Awesome. No, I think the first time when I heard about the term, or like when I heard you talk at Change, I was like, wait, what is circular supply chain? I think, and again, talking about your journey, I think you've had a unique journey. As you mentioned, you've done aromatherapy, artistry, engineering. Now you're in circular supply chain. What do you think sparked these transitions? Do you think it was just curiosity or opportunity or something else guiding you?
I think you hit the perfect word. It's going to be relentless curiosity.
Mhm.
I'm someone who loves asking questions. I love connecting with people. And every step along the way, I've asked, like, what do people actually do? It's not just a title and it's not just a role, but what do you do? What do you love? What frustrates you? What are the problems you're trying to solve? What are the problems that are hiding between the lines that aren't so glamorous about what you're doing? And that kind of curiosity really helped me understand more and get more curious. Like I got more questions answered, and then I had more questions, and I had more. And at every stage, I've paid attention to two things. What was I genuinely curious about? Like, what were those things that I got an answer and it made me ask more questions? And then, what are the skills that I have that could be useful in that space? So that combination has really guided all of my pivots and where I've delved into more than any like master plan or any kind of natural like, oh, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to stay on this path.
Mhm.
Curiosity isn't just like interest in something.
Yeah.
I if you notice something pulls at you,
Mhm.
if something is like come to me, it's very alluring. It's very much like something that you're continuously, the more you learn, the more you are interested in it, the more you're curious about it, the more you want to know. and then you stay open to opportunities and be very willing and humble to learn, I
Mhm.
think that's where curiosity really starts livening up what your path ends up being.
Got it. Yeah, I think I totally resonate to this. And I think I was like talking about this in the beginning that I originally didn't plan on studying supply chain. I was a mechanical engineering major, and then COVID happened, and I started looking at like, wait, how can like ports being closed impact like me not getting medicines? And I think that's what sparked the interest. I see the same happened with you. Did you ever imagine like while starting off that you'd end up in supply chain or no clue?
No, no idea. No, I think that something's really interesting about supply chain is before COVID. So I started working in supply chain around the time of COVID, but it was still really early on that I didn't understand the ramifications or the impact supply chain had. So
Mhm.
before then, there's a period of time, especially in, I would think for engineering students, that were like, there's engineering before, and then there's engineering after, and there's always engineering. Engineering is engineering is engineering.
Yeah.
Supply chain was, there was, you got to the store and you bought your things,
Mm.
and then after COVID, there was a supply chain. Like that idea and that concept that this existed, I think wasn't a viable career path. It wasn't really known
Mm.
what's all of the things that happen behind the curtain. I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people who don't grow up with it as part of their lives, don't really understand what it is. My dad was for a paper, like a magazine
Mm.
company, so that he did printing, a printing company for 30 years, and he was their logistics manager.
Mhm.
And I still just say he's a plant manager because I had no idea growing up what logistics even meant.
Yeah.
So it took my entire life. I had no idea what my dad even did because it wasn't a thing. It's not really a thing that you learn about and you understand in supply
Mhm.
chain. So I think now it's really a wonderful opportunity that more people are able to explore supply chain earlier on and understand what it is and get curious about it, get curious and kind of see what's behind the curtain.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like one of my professors said that like growing up we're all taught that be thankful for how you get the food on your plate, but like from a supply chain point, you should actually be thinking about how you get the food on your plate, like everything that
Yep.
goes on behind the scenes. So definitely agree with that. And obviously we talked about like you've done different education, like you've had different educational backgrounds, different things that you've learned in college before that. um, there's one thing like there are people, as you said, like a lot of engineers they just study engineering and do engineering. There are people who study like let's say computer science now want to shift to or now have shifted to supply chain and do supply chain. Education, switching education is totally different than switching like careers actively, like how you have done. You've been a project engineer, then an engineering manager, a product development engineer, and now you're in like supply chain where you're doing program management, strategic programs, circular supply chain. Um, what is what has that shift been like for you? Like, do you think that was a lot more challenging than than just changing educational institution, than just changing your educational focus, or was it also smooth?
I don't think anything when you're pivoting at any point, I don't think it's smooth. I
Hmm.
think something for me, I had the benefit of exploring technology and being in the technology,
Hmm.
but I quickly learned, even in that project engineer role, that in innovation, so I worked in hydrogen systems and climate tech and kind of innovative technology.
Yeah.
And in that space, you really learn quickly that the technology isn't going to fail because the technology fails. Like
Hmm.
the technology is the technology.
Hmm.
The engineers and the scientists, they're going to figure it out. That, in a very basic terms, they're going to figure it out.
Hmm.
The thing that will make an innovative technology or a novel tech or anything new and complex
Hmm.
fail is going to be the infrastructure around it. It's going to be the systems that connect it and
Hmm.
take it out of that box of the lab and into the world. It's a lot more complex and it's a lot more hand holding. It's a lot more pass offs than even us engineers would think, or anyone would really think exploring a new product.
Mhm.
And that eye-opening experience of I was naturally stepping into these roles anyway as an engineer. I was starting to work with the sourcing team for new components and coordinating with suppliers. And I was building all these processes for making these transitions and handoffs more smooth.
Mhm.
And at first I was like, I'm the engineer and I'm helping. I'm helping these other departments succeed.
Mhm.
And then one day I started to realize I actually loved this part. I loved the complexity and I loved the humanity. I loved working with people in these situations for problem solving. And I loved the system level thinking, which I did get from engineering. Like it
Mhm.
was a very natural melding for me.
Yeah.
And I think experiencing that in person, I resisted it a
Mhm.
lot
Mhm.
myself. I did have moments of being like, I'm not a supply chain person, I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
And I think it does happen sometimes where there's this side of the wall and then there's this side of the wall, and especially in companies where it's like operations and scientists or operations and engineers are supposed to butt heads. So you have to pick a side. You have to pick, are you an operations person or are you an engineer? And
Mhm.
I actually felt that a lot when I was exploring both and being a part of both worlds. It's like, okay, who's your tribe?
Yeah.
And I think nowadays that is actually starting to weaken a bit, where having an engineering background and a supply chain background and finding where you can bridge them together with your unique strengths
Mhm.
is actually what the future of careers should look like. And that's how it should actually be.
I see. No, I think that motivates me a lot. I studied applied engineering and supply chain, and I totally agree. Like I feel like I've been seeing like a lot more, I guess under the title of program managers, where they've had some like technical experience, technical expertise, but also with the supply chain focus being more in demand in the job market. So I definitely agree with that. Um, and I wanted to ask this in the beginning, but I'll ask now, what exactly is circular supply chain? Like, obviously, we've heard the book terms, but since you're working like in the industry, hands-on, what is circular supply chain, and how do you think? I don't think, especially for me, like in school, even in like workplaces, not a lot of people like actively talk about the term circular supply chain. How do you think one should be like looking into it or like preparing for it if they want to make a career into circular supply chain?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I'm very excited to talk about this. I could talk forever about this. I think I'll start with saying what inspired me to be
Mhm.
part of the circular supply chain, why this was so interesting to me, because it's the same thing. I didn't stumble upon this term. It wasn't in any of the certifications that I went after. It wasn't something that was very well known to me, even though it's a concept that's actually been around for quite a long time, a very, very, very long time. But I actually worked in a company
Mhm.
that my role was to build a supply chain. The
Mhm.
company itself was a circular business model.
Mhm.
So it was a waste to value company. And that was when I first learned about circular economy, was this idea of taking a natural waste stream and finding a way to extract more value out of it. So
Right.
there are companies now really springing up, especially with our most recent government change and tariffs and things like that. This idea of circularity really needs to start rising to the forefront of how we can get supply chain sovereignty or domestic resilience in our supply chains. But I was working in this company and I was experiencing how hard it was actually to operationalize circularity
Mhm.
inside a circular company. So even though the circular economy is a circular business model, we were taking waste to value. My actual supply chain was linear. It
Yeah.
was way more easy to do the whole take, make, waste model of how do we get our equipment in? How do we get our raw materials in so we can build the processes to do our business model of waste to value? And that broke my brain severely because it's really hard to differentiate a circular economy versus a circular supply chain.
Mhm.
So I looked for how does this work and what's the difference? What does that even mean? And I found the Circular Supply Chain Network. I found Deborah Dull, who's the founder, and I followed her around because she's absolutely brilliant. And her team that she's built is wonderful, very knowledgeable people. And our job is really to help people understand what circular supply chains are. And my favorite way to explain it is with juggling. So I like to say, if you're just throwing a ball, just throw it up in the air and then you back away from it and it lands on the ground, it's no longer in play. There's no value in it. That was not fun. There's no value in that whatsoever of just watching a ball fall to the ground. And that is your take, make, waste model, where you're purchasing materials, you go through your production, and you've created a product, and then that product goes out into the market, and then it goes into the trash after the customer has used it. The circular economy or circular supply chain model is juggling. So you have a ball, maybe you have several balls, and the idea is you throw it up and then you're supposed to catch it. And you can make big loops, you can make small loops, you can make ornate loops, you can put it on fire. It can be more interesting, it can be more fun. But the idea is that ball is in play at all times. And think of that like your raw materials that you're having in your supply chain. How can you get that product back? So it's gone out to the customer and it comes back and you can reuse it, you can remanufacture it, you can refurbish it. Can you change something about it? Can you extract things from it to put into a new product?
Mm.
So it's a very elegant solution to the complexity of supply chain, I think. It gives us resiliency because we're not dependent on raw materials and where to source raw materials all the time. It enables creativity in your supply chain. It's a very fun problem solving experiment to make a circular supply chain or make your own product more circular. And
Mm.
then it gives you long term security, especially as we're looking at material scarcity over time.
Mm.
So being dependent on a material that might go away in
Mm.
our lifetimes or in the next lifetime, it's hard to imagine right now, but it's something that now is the time we should be building our supply chains to allow us the autonomy and the freedom of the materials we have in play,
Mm.
keep them in play so we don't have to worry about running out of anything when it's too late to change what the product is supposed to be.
I see. Do you, and it makes sense. I think the juggling the ball is a perfect example. Like it gives me a very visual picture of okay, what's happening. Could you, if you can, like give an example of a product or a company that you feel like is doing a great job with circular supply chain so that we can actually like imagine, okay, this is how it works for a real life product that we're using.
Sure. I will say my favorite example, because I've actually experienced it and I've walked their floors very gracefully,
Mhm.
graciously because of the Circular Supply Chain Network. We have a member who works at Cummins,
Mhm.
and I've actually walked here in Colorado their remanufacturing floor. So Cummins is a company, they make diesel engines,
Mhm.
and diesel engines, they're dirty, they're very complex machinery that do very high intensity work.
Mhm.
They will actually take back their diesel engines
Mhm.
in this facility and tear it apart.
Mhm.
And anything from the body that
Mhm.
they can reuse. So they'll take out all the parts and whatever they can reuse, they clean it, they sand it down, they'll do whatever it takes to make that body go back out into the market again. And
Wow.
they'll do that multiple times. So you're taking an engine in and you're replacing a couple of things, but for the most part, you're optimizing the material so it looks brand new again
Mhm.
because it's still good. All of these metals are still good. All of these widgets inside of a big block of an engine,
Mhm.
they're still good.
Yeah.
So, and it's expensive too. This is a big, expensive piece of machinery that uses a lot of materials and resources.
Mhm.
So, having a facility where they come in, spruce it up, and it goes back out into the market, either to the original owner
Mhm.
or it can be resold again,
Yeah.
that is a great example, I think, of something that is high value. So it's it's a product that if it became obsolete because it doesn't work anymore, would be a huge waste. A
Mhm.
waste of materials, a waste of space,
Mhm.
but they created a new revenue stream by being able to take back that engine and refurb it and then send it back out again.
I see. No, I think that's a great example, and I feel like as you're talking through this, I can imagine, and like I'm getting more drawn. I'd like to ask like one follow-up question. So, for someone, let's say, who's graduating college right now, or is in the supply chain field but wants to pivot into circular supply chain, as you said that with everything happening, there is more potential and there is more demand for circular supply chain, like people, professionals who know about it and who can transform a linear supply chain into circular. How do you think one should approach like getting into this field? Like, are there any certifications one should do or anything particular that one should study?
I think there's a lot of books and there's a lot of resources.
Mhm.
Joining communities that further circularity is a great place to be. I think right now, I wouldn't say there's a single certification I'd point to or a single source that I would point to. You can start with the Circular Supply Chain Network since that's very focused to supply chain
Yeah.
circularity.
Mhm.
We Deborah Dahl has a couple of books that I would greatly recommend anybody to read because it's very practical. She just released a book that is very similar to The Goal.
Mhm.
So it's a story, and you're following this person as she's creating a circular supply chain in her own company, and that visual aspect is very helpful. It's very practical in that sense. I think something that industry wise to be looking into would be something like reverse logistics.
Mhm.
So a big part of circularity is the fact that you have to bring back that your product.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I think that's a very complex and nuanced problem that needs more innovation to it. That I think there's a lot of companies out there doing that. So that's a great place to start and to get into and explore, as well as product design. So if you are an engineer by trade, you can start imagining, okay, what does it look like to have something that can be remanufactured? Can it be modular so that can be taken apart really easily so
Mhm.
that we can use certain components again?
Got
Those types of problems need assistance. Like they need the support. And I think that those are great opportunities to look into.
Got it. No, that's super effort. Thank you so much. I'd like to pivot back, and I think since you mentioned like if you're a product design engineer and if you want to get into this field, I think they would be a great fit. This reminds me, like as I said earlier, like I've been hearing a lot of people contemplate what they're currently studying and they want to get into supply chain. What advice do you have for like university students who think that okay, I've invested like XYZ years into studying, let's say engineering or any other field, and they're regretting like should I switch, or they have the guilt in them, like should I switch? Will it be a waste of money? What will my career look like? Since you have done multiple switches, you've had multiple degrees, what's your advice for them?
I think if you have the opportunity right now, like you're in the middle of your degree and you have an opportunity in a co-op or an internship, or you can do a dual program where you're studying and working,
Mhm.
proximity is such a benefit.
Mhm.
So, can you ask to be on supplier calls? Can you get more involved with the supply chain side of things so that you can learn the nitty gritty, like in the field? Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying the sourcing, the complexity? Are there projects or cross-functional opportunities that you can be taking?
Mhm.
If you don't have that, and if you're in an engineering program, there's two paths. There's definitely two paths. I do find I have a benefit of having an engineering degree and then supplementing it with the supply chain certifications.
Mhm.
I had that opportunity, and I think that worked well for me because I have both sides, At the same time, I spoke earlier too, it does give you an identity crisis sometimes of being like, what am I? Am I an engineer or am I a supply chain person? I think there's a lot of opportunities now to meld the two of them together, like similar to your degree or similar to some degrees that bring in some engineering and bring in some supply chain or business and combining them together in a very meaningful way. I love that idea.
Mhm.
If you're not enjoying engineering, if you're thinking of like supply chain looks way more interesting, it lays to your strengths
Mhm.
more. Don't stay because you've invested years or you've invested this money.
Mhm.
That is the definition of a sunk cost fallacy. And you're not going to be fulfilled. You are essentially wasting time at that point when you could be doing the thing that brings you joy.
Mhm.
A good career fit feels like this. It energizes you more than it drains you, and
Mhm.
it uses your natural strengths.
Mhm.
If you're in an engineering program because that's what you thought you needed to do,
Mhm.
but it doesn't bring you any happiness, don't do it. You go find the thing that will bring you what you're good at and what energizes you because your career is a very long time. It is a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And you can change your mind at any time, then change it now if that's what you want to do. If you're almost done and you're happy enough and you're like, okay, I want to explore this next, also do that. Like that's also a great idea. More information, more knowledge, more curiosity will never hurt you.
Mhm.
But don't do it if you're unhappy.
Got it. No, I think that's great advice. Like, I think the sunk cost fallacy. I think yeah, that's a big thing. A lot of people like when I switched in my junior year, but a lot of people they think that okay, I'm like 2 years in, I should just push through even though they're not enjoying it. So I think that ideology is like really helpful. Um, I know you mentioned like certifications that doing a supply chain certificate, but having an engineering background or an engineering degree. I know you have done like multiple certifications, if I'm not wrong, 80 plus certifications. I was also going through your portfolio and you've built like AI agents. You've won the ASCM Emerging Leader Award. And again, bringing back powerlifting, you're a medalist, 2 times medalist. You've published research, you've worked in deep tech, like done so many cool things. Um, there are for someone who wants to like put themselves out there. I guess I have a two-part question. One, what advice do you have for someone who wants to put themselves out there and like try on multiple things and like either ask people to like nominate them for an award? A lot of people just think that do I even deserve it? Can I even do it? And and second is just learning about your journey. Like, do you feel like you naturally decided to do these things, or was there like a strategic plan to it?
It's funny you brought up something very interesting in that first question of feeling like you can't do it.
Mhm.
There's a Seneca quote that I love. It's it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it.
Mhm.
And I translate that and internalize that as take your time and waste none of it. You're allowed to explore. You're allowed to be curious. You're allowed and encourage, and you should make the most out of your life
Mhm.
and what you think your life should be. But you're also not obligated to stay somewhere that no longer fits you.
Mhm.
That is a complete waste of your time. If you're doing something or you're pursuing something because you're afraid of it being a waste of time, that is a waste of time.
Yeah.
What I do have is a lot more awareness of what energizes me and
Mhm.
what drains me and what I want my work to feel like.
Mhm.
And I surround myself with people who remind me that I'm capable.
Mhm.
Because a lot of the time my first reaction is still, I can't do that.
Mhm.
My first reaction, my coach is so angry at me all the time because he knows I can actually do more. I can lift more. I'm better than I think about myself, even on the platform at times. And it's very frustrating for him to see because he just wants to be like, why can't you see what I see in you? And I think everyone has those people, and everyone should have those people in their lives
Mhm.
that see the absolute best in you and encourage and challenge you to be the absolute best that you can be, because we all live 99% of the time inside of our own heads, and sometimes that's not a great place. Sometimes we're not that great to ourselves. So I think those are the things that are really important for anyone in any monumentally challenging part of their lives: education, career choices, these types of things. They're big decisions and big parts of your life. And I think that's something that's necessary, because you can't go it alone. You can't think of it yourself alone, or think that you need to be some grand, motivated, and disciplined person. Nobody has all of that. It takes a village.
Yeah.
I've always been curious, and when something interests me, I want to understand it deeply.
Mhm.
I I'm not a natural person to put myself out there.
Mhm.
I've boiled the ocean down to two philosophies that guide me. So this goes to the your second question, and this is something I think could benefit anyone: is understanding. Just say two things. Find two things that help guide all of the decisions that you make. Mine are love and strength.
Okay.
I want to be a strong person,
Mhm.
physically, mentally, emotionally. I want to withstand any challenge and grow from it.
Mhm.
That is something that I find very valuable to me as a person.
Mhm.
And I want to be a loving person. I want to be someone who listens and can connect with people, who treats people well, and can build trust.
Mhm.
And I think any opportunity I have in front of me, or anything that I've come across, I look to these two philosophies to make sure it builds on what I'm trying to build myself to be. And I think that pushes me further than any kind of fear would be of, oh, I can't do that, or not putting myself out there. I'm not going to naturally do it because it's fun. I'm going to do it because this is how I'm going to become a better person. And when I frame it in this way, it's a lot easier for me to take that first step.
I see. No, that's super powerful. Like, I think, yeah, a lot of people, like, as you said, 99% of the times, like, we're in our heads. And yeah, it's not always the best place to be. And if a challenge or an opportunity presents itself, we're naturally just inclined to, like, if it's outside our comfort zone, we'll just be like, oh no, we don't want to do it. But yeah, I think that's the correct way to approach it. That even though it's not fun, or my first inclination is, oh, super, it's not super exciting, but I still want to do it for the journey, for the learnings. No, that's awesome. I think one last question that I want to ask you. I've told that a major chunk of my audience is just people who are in college, new grads wanting to build a career in supply chain, or in general, not just in supply chain, general students, early career professionals wanting to learn something from people like you who have had like an extensive professional and an academic career, and even like a personal accomplishments. What what's that one piece of parting advice that you have that people could start applying today? And like how should they go about it?
I think it can feel overwhelming. So, what you're doing right now in the middle of your education,
Mhm.
your day to day is stressful enough because you're doing education. Like your classes are probably wicked hard. So I think there's really good advice in ignoring the 5 year plan. You're going to have people who say, where do you want to be in 5 years? And then start charting a path towards that.
Mhm.
And that's very big, and that's very overwhelming. And I think if the last 5 years told us anything, it's you can't plan for 5 years. You can definitely not plan that far ahead. Kudos to you if you can at this point and it actually sticks.
Yeah.
But I think what you can do is pay attention this week, pay attention tomorrow, pay attention day to day in your daily interactions when you have 5 minutes to yourself. Pay attention to what energizes you.
Mhm.
Pay attention to the things that bring you joy. And it doesn't have to be a certain skill. It can be anything. It can be how you had a conversation with someone and how it made you feel. It can be what your daily routine looks like. Are there certain things about it that bring you the most joy?
Mhm.
And then also find out what drains you. And
Mhm.
no, it's not necessarily your homework because it's going to drain you or certain professors,
Yeah.
but find out why. Find out, really sit down and say, what is it about this assignment or what is it about this person or what is it about this interaction that's draining me? And I think those observations can tell you a lot more about your future than trying to make a plan
Mhm.
because they are the things that you need to have as your north star and as your compass to move forward in a meaningful way.
Mhm.
And no matter what age you are, if you're in school right now and you're in your 20s, or if you're in school right now and you're in your 40s, or you're going back to school in your 60s, this is the most important thing to find out who you are and what you are going to be uniquely wonderful at doing.
Mhm.
It's finding out what brings you joy and what drains your energy, and then use that information to make all of your decisions going forward, or at least influence your decisions going forward. I think that's a very strong skill
Mhm.
that people should be practicing.
I see. Yeah, I think not a lot of people are able to like identify. And I think I love this approach, like identify what brings you joy and what drains you. A lot of people are very like situationally or like very idealistic that okay, this person has done this. They were happy when they did that. I'm just going to follow the same path. And yeah, you might not enjoy it as much and you might find it very draining, but I think not understanding what works for you and what doesn't work for you is super important.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing that. I think that wraps up all that I wanted to ask you. I think there was so much information and so much wisdom to gain from here, especially I think the education that you provided on like circular supply chain and circular economy. I think I encourage a lot of like everyone who's watching this, go check it out. I'm going to do more research after this and try to learn more about what this future looks like, and how we can learn more and like just implement it in our day to day. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for taking the time and for coming on here, for sharing about your journey, sharing all this advice. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rochi. I really appreciated this opportunity. And yes, I encourage anyone to reach out to me if they have any questions or want to learn more and connect with me in the Circular Supply Chain Network.
Yeah,
Thank you so
sounds good.
much.
Thank you.